Blender BIM community. I thought I would do a little tutorial to show you how to use the IFC Clash tool that comes with Blender BIM and is also part of the IFC OpenShell repository. Now, it wasn't super obvious for me at first. I had to do some digging, so this is why I thought I would make a little video tutorial, both for myself so I can remember it, but also to help anyone else that is getting started with clash detection in Blender. So let's go over it. First of all, you're going to want to know about this page here, and I'll put the link to this page on the Open Source Architecture Wiki page under IFC code examples, IFC OpenShell code examples. And if you scroll almost all the way to the bottom, there's a section called IFC query syntax. And here it describes a few things and how you can use that syntax to search for objects in the IFC files. The simplest ones, and the ones we're going to look at right now just to get started, are these. So basically this is the syntax we're looking at, and basically what this does, this vertical bar, or the pipe symbol, is an OR statement. So we're going to do, basically we want to select IFC walls and IFC slabs, or IFC slabs I should say. And the little dot here in the syntax basically means that it's an IFC class, right? So basically a category, let's put it that way if you're coming from other BIM software. So let's look at how that works in practice. It's quite simple. Here I already have a clash set up, but basically what you would do is you can add a new clash set, you can give it a name, then you would add a clash source, which is your IFC file, and then you would put here, for now we're going to stick to the include command, you would put .ifc wall. So if I just left it like this and added another second IFC file and said .ifc duct segment, for example, it's going to clash walls versus ducts. Pretty straightforward. And if you want to figure out what a class or category an object is, you can select it here in Blender. You can also go through the hierarchy here basically, and the way it's categorized is the first part of the name before the slash is the class. So this is basically a Revit file that got exported to IFC, so it looks like this has a little bit too much information in the name, but the key part is the first part before the slash. So we could also do like IFC, we could put a vertical pipe here and say we want to do dot IFC air terminal, and now it would clash all the walls against IFC ducts or IFC terminals. In other words, whether or not it's an IFC duct or an IFC terminal, it's going to clash it, right? So typically this is the type of setup that you'd want to have. Maybe here IFC terminal is not that useful, but we probably want to do IFC duct fitting. So basically this would be ducts versus walls. And now what I've done ahead of time, because this computation does take a little while depending on how many categories or classes you add here and how advanced you make the filtering. But it doesn't take that long. It is still reasonable, although it will be improved upon in the future. So I've run it ahead of time. Now keep in mind that this runs, it checks the actual IFC files you point to, not your Blender model, right? So if you've made modifications in Blender, you have to re-export it as an IFC and then rerun the clash detection again, looking at those specific IFC files. So I'm going to simply load the results from earlier, and I'm going to pick this JSON file here that basically contains the results. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And there you go. It just selected the elements that are clashing. And so if we zoom in here, spin around, you see that it's a duct clashing into wall. Same thing there. It looks like we've got basically a vertical round duct that's going up through the slabs, and therefore that's why we see those included. So that's the idea. Pretty straightforward. And as you can see, we've actually detected one that seems to be pretty bad. Yeah. Well, you may recognize this model from somewhere else. So, what else can we do? Well, you can adjust the tolerance here. So this is in meters, I believe, at the moment. You can also do what's called an exclude command. If you do exclude, it's going to basically clash against everything except for what you put in this line. So the logic for me personally kind of gets confusing a little bit when we use exclude. So for now, I'm sticking to the more basic include. I like to think that way. I like to keep things simple. Going back to the IFC OpenShell code examples, if we just take this one step further or show you what potentially you could do, you could also do, for example, search within IFC walls and search for a specific property and a value for that property. So for example, you could say, I only want to clash against IFC walls that contain a specific property of fire rating of 2 hours. So that is doable. You could also search by spatial containment. So for example, if in this example you want to know things that are in a specific story, so you only want to clash, for example, the first story, you could do it with this syntax. But we started just with the basics because it seems like for most projects, most simpler projects, this is probably gonna get you through it. So basically, you just create a bunch of clash sets. It might be walls versus ducts or architecture versus mechanical, however you want to group it. You can add as many as you want, and then you hit execute IC clash, and it'll run them all. And then you can come back and simply pick the clash set that you ran and say select IFC clash results, and it'll highlight only the clashes from the clash set that you have selected here. So let's look at another one. I am going to reload or import. Actually, I gotta wipe these because when you import, it kind of just adds them on, it appends them to the end. And I'm going to bring in, gotta get the right file here. I believe it's this one. Okay, this is the one we want to look at. This does architecture versus everything except for, I put IFC flow terminals, but it's actually IFC duct segments in the end that I used. Now, you'll notice I'm using the include for the group A, but I'm using exclude for group B. So basically what this is doing is it's checking against all walls in the project versus everything that is not exclude, right? Not an IFC duct segment or an IFC spatial structure. So this IFC spatial structure element is basically like levels and things like this, like the IFC site and things you definitely don't want to clash against, and duct. So basically what this is doing is it's doing a slightly filtered clash, because most clashes through walls, you know, if they're going at 90 degrees in this project, maybe we don't need them, right? The tricky thing is it might actually exclude some clashes where the duct is running lengthwise along the wall, so just be careful when you exclude these. But anyways, let's select the results we have here. Just gonna get the right one. This guy here. So I didn't run it for you because this one does take quite a bit of time because it is clashing so many things in the model. But as you can see, it is selecting quite a few things. I'm just gonna unhide everything actually. Let's restart this. Select. grab this here. Okay, and then isolate it. So it is selecting a few of the clashes, but if we look at what those are, you know, these are duct fittings, and we did not tell it to exclude duct fittings. So this shows us only things that are not duct segments and IFC spatial structure. So anything that's a wall versus anything else, basically, except for these two. All right, so hopefully that's not too confusing. As you can see, there's a reason I personally have started using just include and include. As I wrap my head around what exclude does, hopefully this helps you get started with clash detection in Blender BIM.